Today we have a special guest with us, Brannon Powell. Brannon, I met probably over a year ago now. He actually works for the state of Tennessee, I believe, but he's a coordinator for the Tennessee Lifeline Project. And what he does is he helps, what these guys do is they help support groups and throughout faith-based support groups throughout Tennessee. He may want to tell you more about it himself, but also what he is to me is he's a guy that is a connection to help me get folks who need a fresh start by going to rehab and things like that. And I just appreciate them so much. Many times I've called on him and Diane to like, can you help these folks out? Is there any place we can find them to go to get this fresh start and to get some time behind them in sobriety? So I just praise God for his ministry. And, you know, people like Brannon and myself, one of the reasons our heart is in recovery is because we're recovering ourselves. And we understand what it's like to be alone and afraid and not know where to go and not know where to turn. So I really, really appreciate Brannon's ministry. I appreciate his love for you and for addicts. And so I'm going to ask Brannon to come on up now and just share his story with us. So come on up, Brannon.
I'm not used to holding a microphone, so being in the bright lights. Can you hear me okay? I really appreciate Pastor Wade. I don't know if I can do two things at one time. Asking me to come and speak. It's an honor and a privilege to be asked to speak anywhere. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about my story, and yeah, you got all that correct, except I don't actually work for the state. I'm grant funded under the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse, so, but I do answer to the state. But a little bit about me, I really appreciate the singers. That was awesome. It reminded me, I signed a baseball scholarship at Union University back in 1979. But the most important decision I ever made in my life was in 1969. Y'all can do all this figuring out, figure out how old I am. But I asked Jesus Christ to come in my heart. Allen Baptist Church. After doing a revival, and God convicted me, and I asked Jesus to come in my heart. Most important decision I ever made. And I want to tell all y'all, it's really the only decision that matters in life. So, you know, life was good. I'm from right up the road, Haywood County. My daddy was a cotton ginner in the lumber business, banker, and a sweet mom that I'll get to see this afternoon through the window. She's 89 years old tomorrow. She's in assisted living. Got 3 older brothers. And I lost my oldest brother. He was 53 years old and literally drank himself to death. But what happened was, I went off to college. I signed a baseball scholarship, but at the last minute, I decided I want to go off to University of Tennessee. And I wanted to get away from home. I wanted to get away from that control from my parents. And little did I know, and I thought about this too. Before the church I went to, Brother Dean Doster, I forget how many, wasn't many of us that graduated. The church is not real big, but he wanted to talk to us. He would always talk to us, graduating seniors before they went off to college. And I remember when I went in and talked to him that day, and he said, Brannon, he said, God's really got a calling on your life. And he did. But what I heard him say, Brannon, you're going to be a preacher. Not what he said. He said, God's got a calling on your life. But I heard that's not. And I remember walking out in that yard, walking nuts. You know, God's got a real sense of humor. Standing up here today, man, what it took to get there. So just to give you a little, I'm not going to get into all the gory details, but I will tell you that I abused cocaine for 20-something years. I abused meth. I abused opioids. I abused marijuana. I abused alcohol. Any drug, ecstasy, didn't matter. And I completed 19 treatment centers by age 40. Completed. Now, I'll tell you this, takes a especially stupid person to complete 19 treatment centers, but they saved my life. They got me off the street. I was a binger, and they kept me out of jail. You know, I figured it up. It's probably, I don't know, between 6.5 and 7 years of my life. That, you know, and when I went off to college, I had all these dreams, and I was a good student. I was a great student. I was an A student for the most part. I was a quarterback. I was a safety. I punted. I was a shortstop and a pitcher, point guard and basketball. But, all that was 43 years ago. And I do get the privilege of going into jails until all this COVID stuff hit. And I'll tell you this, I'm much more comfortable talking to people in jail. But we're all broken people. We're all broken people. And God does his best work in brokenness. His best work. And I'm here to tell y'all, I don't know any of y'all's story, but we all got a story. And in my story today, my identity has changed so many times back when. Now, when I asked Jesus Christ to come in my heart, he came in. And he never left. Now, over the years, it was a lot of well-meaning people telling me, looking at my lifestyle, and when you were doing the things I do, there's no way you're a Christian. There's no way. And I doubted a lot. But now I know Jesus came in my heart and he never left. And I remember years ago, my old Sunday school teacher handed me a cassette tape. That's how many years ago. Might be worth something nowadays. In the 22nd chapter of Luke, the 31st verse, and Jesus is talking to Simon Peter, and he says, Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned back, strengthen your brother. I'm going to give you my little version of that. This at one time was the most requested talk at Bellevue Baptist Church in there, where they sell everything there, their little gift shop. But to sift wheat, beat the chaff from the good. It's like purifying gold. To purify gold, the heat's got to get hot as it can be, and it basically, pound the impurities out. Now, a lot of my life, and also I can remember this man when he was talking about this. Why in the world? There's Simon. Simon had walked with Jesus, and he goes on to say that you'll deny me. And Simon said, no, I wouldn't. And he denied him 3 times before the crow, before the rooster crowed. And, I talked a lot about God during my life, and I can remember those times, and I want to say over close to 30 years, 20-something years, on and off. I wasn't high during that whole time. Things would get back good. I was able to, I'd say, to function for the most part. I had family. I've got 4 beautiful daughters now, four daughters. I tell people it takes a real man to have 4 daughters. And, but my drug use and those choices cost me my family, cost me jobs, cost me businesses. We all know the story of the prodigal son. But, and we all, sure can all relate to that. But we don't talk about the brother in the field, and for a while I was like that brother in the field, back before I started making all these choices and became what I became. We call it alcoholic, drug addicts, all that. I just think those are worldly terms. I was definitely those things, because once I started, I couldn't stop. And I would just continue until that hole got so deep, and I'd cry out to God, and he'd rescue me one more time. But, growing up, I didn't get it. I got a lot of praise. I got a lot of praise for athletics. I got a lot of praise for school, a lot of praise for being that good little boy, that all-American kid. I'm the youngest of 4, and boy, I gave my best effort to be good. Did the right things. I was always at church and respectful of my elders, and everybody thought I was really on the right path. And I look back, but even today, even though standing up here talking to y'all, I can't be good enough. It's impossible. It's only through Jesus Christ. It's not about being good. It's about his saving grace. And I had to be broken to a point to realize that there's absolutely nothing I can do absolutely nothing I can do. You know, the God saved me. I can't even tell you how many times he saved me. But in 1987, April the 2nd of 1987, my daddy died of a sudden heart attack. He was 56 years old. Guess where I was? Out on a cocaine binge. They did find me. I did make it to the funeral, and I got back. I was living in Memphis at the time. I've lived all over. You know, I ran and ran and ran. I've lived in Florida. I've lived in North Carolina. I've lived in Georgia. I've lived in, you know, the thing about it, everywhere I ran through, there I was. And, you know, recovery for me today is, you know, and I go to recovery meetings, you know, and I know that we have to celebrate recovery here, go to other recovery meetings, and, you know, there's no way to get sober without Jesus Christ. You know, Peter 5:8 says, "Be vigilant and sober-minded. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking to whom he can devour." And he devoured me for a long time. But I also want to say it's so important that we meet people where they are. And I know that's the ministry of this church. I made a pastor not long ago that I ran into, and I think he took it the wrong way, but I could tell it irritated him. But I just made the statement. I think we need to do a much better job of demonstrating the love of Christ than preaching the love of Christ. You know, when I go into these jails and I talk to, because everybody wants help in jail, you know, but it's not for me to, you know, all we can all do is just carry the message. And, you know, a lot of these people have been preached to all their life. And then don't get me wrong, listen, I'm so grateful. I work with a lot of preachers, and I'm not cutting down preachers whatsoever. I'm just saying that we all, I think, could do a better job of demonstrating the love of Christ, you know, and meeting people where they are. And that's what I try to do by sharing my story, but I don't sugarcoat it, you know. People, you know, anybody can get clean. Stopping was never the problem. I could always stop. Staying stops the problem. And it has to be a transformation from the inside out, not the outside in. And I see it so much. People get out of jail to get a job, you know, and all that stuff's good. Things start good. I mean, you stop doing drugs, your life's going to get better, you know. But to stay stopped is only through the power of God, through Christ. Transform me from the inside out. I mess up there by doing, and he'll do it one day at a time. He'll radically transform you and all that. But you know, for most people, it's a process because we have a lot of pain. Everybody's got pain. Issues. I don't care if you came from the best family in the world. You know, my parents were not divorced. You know, but we have to go through a lot of trainings, and there's some trainings out here called ACE trainings, Adverse Childhood Experiences. And it's a sort of a criteria, and I dare say most anybody is affected some kind of way. And we don't know how to deal with that pain. It's our emotions. It's our emotions. And as we, you know, get older, you know, we learn to stuff those feelings, not deal with them, and it's just baggage. It's just baggage. You know, I am going to quote one of the recovery books, said the greatest enemy of an alcoholic is resentment, envy, jealousy, frustration, and fear. Just take the word alcohol out. That's the greatest enemy of a human being. It's those emotions. It's those emotions that we don't know how to deal with. You know, and as we, and it's all about spiritual growth. But I'm telling you, you know, Ryan, there's so much going on in the world, not just with COVID and all that, and sometimes it's frustrating, and you think that the enemy's winning, but he's not. God's got it all under control. Every bit of it. Every bit of it. Doesn't mean that we're not going to go through some pain and suffering. But for me to just stand up here and be asked to speak, sometimes I have to, and again, it's nothing about me, y'all. Absolutely nothing about me. It's just mercy and grace, what the power of God can do to a human being. He'll do it the same for everybody. For everybody. I don't care where you've been, what you done, makes no difference. God forgives. And I'll tell you this, I had a long time, you know, I was raised right, raised in a good home, had all the opportunities, and I was blessed in so many different ways. But I couldn't forgive myself. You know, that was playing God. God will forgive us, but then we can't forgive ourselves. You know? And you know, we talk a lot about forgiveness, and so many people in the world are running around just angry. I still have anger issues, you know, that I deal with. A lot, I think we all do. They're really angry, the men and women that I have the privilege of speaking to when I get called. I mean, I work with courts and I work with judges, and they'll call me, I want you to go talk to this person, I will, but you know, I'll just see so much anger. They're just blocked off from being able to hear anything because they're so angry. So angry at whatever. You know, we've got to stop this blame game. It's been going on since the beginning of time. Started in the garden. You know, if Jesus is who he says he is and did what he said he did, and he absolutely did, who are we not to forgive anybody for whatever's happened to you? You know, my problems were you know, I made a lot of bad choices. You can guarantee you're going to reap what you sow. That's a guarantee you're going to reap what you sow. What the enemy means for bad, God will turn it all for his good, his glory. They stand up here today not about Brannon Powell. It's about giving God all the praise and glory. Because I proved it over and over and over in all those different treatment centers, couple of mental institutions. You know, I was diagnosed with all those things. Manic depressive, bipolar, all that stuff. And I hear a lot about that today, and don't get me wrong, I know there's mental illness and all that stuff, and I'm not, but, you know, I've yet to meet anybody that abused drugs that didn't have bipolar tendencies. You know? And I was put on a lot of medication and all that, and I was told, I cut my wrist one time. It was on a Friday night, and I was put in the med and handcuffed to a bed, and I was trying to tell them I'm not crazy, but you know, when you do stuff like that, you know. And anyway, and so, you know, was sent to Lakeside and all that stuff, and I was just angry. I was angry at myself. I mean, really, I did a good job on my wrist now. I did a really good job on my wrist. I had to wear this thing and that stuff to tendons. But I didn't really want to kill myself. But I reached a point that, you know, and I don't know if any of y'all have ever felt like this, but you don't want to live anymore, but you're too scared to die. Terrible place to be. But it can be the best place. It can be the best place. God is always sitting there with open arms. You know, I know in Proverbs, I'm not sure which it says, only a fool believes there's no God. And I don't get in arguments with people. They say, well, you know, how do you know this? Right? And it's faith. I know. And millions of people try to disprove the Bible, but nobody's disproved it yet. And with all that's going on in the world right now, all you got to do is pick it up. It's like reading a newspaper. You know? And, but I just can't tell you, you know, I had reached a point that I didn't realize that God was all I needed, that God was all I had. You know, when Daddy was gone, he wrote me a letter the day he had died. I don't think I said that a while ago. I got back to Memphis. Did I say that? And I picked up and he'd written me a letter, and he was word to death about me. So I carried that guilt and shame for a long time. Did a lot of drinking and drugging, and woe is me, and you know, I can't believe that. Now, you know, I didn't kill my dad, but he was worried about me. You know, and then my brother that my dad was gone. I think God just spared my dad from a lot of pain. I always thought my dad was a tough, big. He was. He was a godly man. I remember that Bible being out every morning. He went to work every morning, especially during, you know, stayed during Jenning season. I don't know if any of y'all, I'm sure y'all are all familiar with that, but the Bible was out every morning, open. But I think he spared my dad from a lot of. I thought Mom was the one that wouldn't be able to handle it, but my mom has endured a lot. She's in, like I said, in assisted living, and they've been quarantined since, I guess, February. And we talk a lot, and she's still got her mind. She's forgetful, but I am too. And she's doing good. But you know, she's endured. She lost my oldest brother that drank himself to death. 53. She lost my dad, lost my brother. You know, her faith is what's gotten her through it all. And, I've spoken at recovery meetings, and I can sit here and just tell you how bad it was and all, but, y'all all know. But when you abuse drugs for as long as I did, it's a miracle that I'm alive. I've OD'd before, cried out to God, and you know what? He restored me. Last week, there's a little young guy in Fayette County that we've been trying to help this guy for, I don't know, probably 3 years. I'd worked for a ministry before I started this job. He was incapable of being honest. And that's the first step. You've got to be honest. You've got to be honest with the man in the mirror or the woman in the mirror. You've got to face yourself. The enemy's real good about keeping that past coming up. Back to this young guy, my old college roommate's a judge now, and that last time I kept telling him, because, I work with a lot of judges, and, they get a bad rep, but let me tell you something. I'm real blessed to Judge Jimmy Smith up in O'Brien County, my former college roommate, Weber McCraw. I'm not saying that I just think they need to get, they spend extra time, and they care about people, but I'm telling you, when they had enough, they've had enough. And I kept telling this guy, I said, I'm telling you, you're going to walk in here one day, he's giving you chance after chance after chance. If you're going to walk in here one day, this is a Fayette County, and he's going to hit that gavel, and it's done. And that's what he did. And he says, I'm going to lock you up to save your life. And I think it was about 2 years, and I heard he was about to get out. So anyway, he got out last Monday, the Monday before Thanksgiving, and they buried him. He died on Friday. 4 days. 2-year-old little boy. That's just one of, I know you hear these stories all the time, and even when my brother died, I was going, why him? Why not me? He just drank too much. He didn't do all the things that I did. But, I chased it. It wasn't just the alcohol or drugs. I just chased everything that I thought the world had to offer. All that momentary pleasure and quick fix. And none of it works. None of it works. Leaves you empty and more broken than before. And, God was always there with open arms, just ready to restore. And I don't know, I just feel like there's some pain in this room. I don't know what's the cause of it. I know I deal with a lot of people that have had a lot, I had a great childhood. I had a wonderful childhood. There's so many people out here that have had terrible, terrible childhoods. I transport people a lot of times for treatment. I may be in a car with them an hour or two or whatever, and hear some of the stories. It's just, it's hard to imagine people go through what they go through. That's how the enemy gets a foothold. That's how he gets a foothold. It's not, I tell people, it's not about the alcohol and the drugs. Those are just what we use to numb the pain, or then after many choices, we got to get down to causes and conditions. Causes and conditions. God's a big God. And he's just sitting there with open arms. So I'm going to read what was said earlier. If you not ask Jesus Christ, it's so simple. It's so simple we miss it. We get caught up in all the stuff that's going on, and that's what happened to me. And again, at 8 years old, I had to come in my heart, and I'm so grateful, and he did, and he never left. He never left. And it was just a miracle. And I will tell you this, it was a few years ago, and all this running and gunning, I'd never been arrested. I really wouldn't. I don't, sometimes I don't know about what I say. My story, my life's an open book now, but I have a younger daughter that doesn't know all this stuff. And, but it's all about giving God the praise and glory. I got arrested in Jackson, Tennessee with cocaine, and I'd never been arrested. And I thought, what? I finally got what I deserve. And I'll tell you this, when they put me in the back of that car, I was handcuffed, and I'm going to tell you something. I didn't hear any voices. It wasn't anything, but I'm going to tell you, it was as real as to me as anything. But Jesus was weeping. He was next to the Father, and he was weeping. and I was weeping. And I'm going to tell you something, I had so much stuff, I was not a crier, but I finally thought, you know what? And he said, son, I didn't want to have to do it, but I had to because I love you. I had to. Broken, it being totally broken, it's the best place anybody can be. So I'm gonna close with this, which, you know, I love telling my story to give God all the praise and glory. But this morning I get nervous. I get real nervous. You know, you can probably tell I lick my lips and everything else, but I've got a lot of little twitches. But this morning, and I just kept, because the enemy was attacking this morning and last night. You know, and what do you think you're doing? You're not fooling anybody. All those, they attacks us in the mind. And then we got ready to come over this morning. I didn't realize that the road was blocked where they're doing construction. So that was a panic set in. I'm going to be late and all this, but God's got it all under control. But this morning, this was one of my readings this morning. And you tell me this, there's just no coincidence. It says, God comforts. This is 2 Corinthians 1, 4 through 5. God comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort others. When they are troubled, we are able to give them the same comfort God has given us. For the more we suffer for Christ, the more God will shower us with his comfort through Christ. And I'm going to go ahead and it says, this is from Rick Warren, his devotions I get every morning. I get several of them. But when you're going through pain, you can choose to focus on yourself or on other people. When you choose to focus on serving other hurting people, it's called redemptive suffering. It's the highest and best use of your pain. No matter what pain you've gone through, Jesus wants to redeem your suffering. He doesn't want it to be wasted. He wants to use it to help other people when they're in pain. Who's better qualified to help a struggling veteran than somebody who's been a struggling veteran? Who's better qualified to help someone recovering from a drug addiction than somebody who's recovered from drug addiction? It says prescription pain pill addiction, but I'm saying drug addiction. Who could better help someone who suffered from a chronic illness than someone who has also suffered in the same way? Your greatest ministry will come out of your deepest pain. I'll say that again. Your greatest ministry will come out of your deepest pain. If you'll be honest with God, others, and yourself about whatever struggle you face, then that struggle will become your ministry. There's also a quote in one of the recovery books that God will use your, I went blank on it. He'll turn your greatest pain into your greatest asset. Your darkest past into your greatest asset. God will use your darkest past to be your greatest asset. And that's what he's done for me. My identity not anymore growing up was Bill and Betty Powell's youngest son, or sports, or the quarterback, or, I was in a fraternity at UT, and I was president of my fraternity, and I was getting a lot of, that was a big deal, worldly wise. Had a lot of friends, so-called friends. Had a lot of friends. And, but all those, my identity was wrapped up in all that stuff. And then, the inheritance and all that stuff. My identity today is in Jesus Christ. Period. Now, thank God for grace, because I fail him every day. But again, I'm reminded, I'm in a Bible study in Jackson. We're called the Ragtag Hoodlums. And if you saw this group of men, and it's real, though. It's real. No telling what you'll hear in there. But I think it's what God calls us to do. Be real. Be real. That's how we reach people. Let me go and finish this. It says, sharing your strengths doesn't make you feel any closer to someone. Sharing your strengths doesn't make you feel any closer to someone. But when you share the experiences that have led you to surrender to God and rely on his strength, then you'll be connected to others more deeply than you can imagine. That's how we reach people. Sharing our pain, share what we've been through, and how God has brought us through it. Because when you, as a broken person, share with other broken people how God has restored you, you're not just sharing something you have in common. You're sharing hope that other people can also experience through redemption through Jesus Christ. Sharing your pain helps you and the people around you to grow in Christ. Use your pain to serve others as a form of ministry. Don't waste your pain. Let God use it for your ministry. So anyway, that's all I've got this morning. I want to just thank you for the opportunity to stand before you. And I can't say it enough. It absolutely has nothing to do with me. You know, there's times people want to say, boy, you've really overcome a lot, you know, and you can talk about how all the treatment centers and all that, but let me tell you something. It's all the grace of God. And all I had to do was throw my arms up. And he'll take you places you never imagined. But also remember this, that enemy will take you places you never imagined. Keep you longer than you want to be there. And you won't be able to get out when you want to get out. So I love everybody. I'm gonna close in prayer real quick. Let me turn it over to you. But let me say a prayer though, real quick, and just thank God for this opportunity. Dear Lord, I just want to thank you for this opportunity that you've given me this morning to give you all the praise and glory for what you've done in my life and what you're doing in other people's lives and what you're doing in this church. God, I know this church you've blessed it, but you're going to really bless it because how they reach out to the sick and suffering and the broken that a lot of other people don't want to deal with. God, I'm so grateful that you never left me and you were always standing there with open arms. But just thank you. Thank you for dying for me. Thank you for being my Lord and Savior. And just thank you for your love and grace. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.